Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Dandadan Season 1, Episode 11. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, a lot of things. First and foremost, we get our proper introduction to Gigi this episode, and I love that, Ken's got to run through his head. It's like, oh my god, look at this guy. He looks so cool. He looks like he's probably an athlete. And it's like, right, this guy's like the antithesis of everything I'm not. And then we find out Gigi's like a massive goofball, which I'm like, it's one of those things. Again, you look at the intro, like, once again, you have no context, but when you look at it, like when you're like when they show all our protagonists during the intro, Gigi's one making a like goofy face. It's like, okay, because he's a goofy guy. But and then I guess that kind of goes in line with like, because it's so interesting on so many different ways and layers. Because I didn't realize this until like I watched someone's video last week, that someone pointed out that Gigi's the boy from episode 1 when Momo was talking about her relationship with Seiko, or her grandmother, about like how that kind of soured. It's because like, right, her grandmother had her doing the thing above her head, and the boy that made fun of her was like her crush. I didn't remember the element of it being her first crush, but I still never put two and two together. And obviously they show us Gigi when he was younger, and it's like, yeah, it's totally the same kid. I just did not remember. I was like, oh, that's it, because I thought it was so interesting. I'm like, wow, you're introducing Gigi like super late in the show. I was like, well, technically he was in the first episode of the series, but still, it's just so interesting and fascinating. So there's that element to it of like, I can't believe I didn't even correlate. I didn't even catch that. I mean, it's kind of poetic in a lot of ways. Like, we're at the tail end of the season for that to kind of come full circle in that regard. But Momo doesn't seem like she's as captivated with Gigi as like you kind of assume, because like Ken's coming from the perspective of like, oh my gosh, she's probably like super into him and stuff like that. And because Ken's very insecure, and it's understandable when he's never really connected with a lot of people. Momo's the first person he's ever connected to, and that creates a special bond between them. It's like, you're the first friend I've ever had, but now I'm also realizing like, yeah, but there's a little bit more. I'm starting to recognize you're a cute girl, and I'm kind of starting to figure out I have feelings for you, and it's there bubbling beneath the surface. But like, in Momo's the same way. She just hasn't really had that moment of clarity. She's feeling what she's feeling, but I don't think she's really been able to put it together. I think this is the episode Ken finally puts it together, how he feels about Momo, but we'll get to that when we get to it. But yeah, I love that like Seiko is like so like, she tells Momo nothing. She's just like, oh yeah, Gigi's gonna be living here for a while. It's like, wait, what? It's like, why is he living here? Because Gigi compliments her. He's like, yo, auntie, you're the best. And she's like, you're such a genius, because he compliments her. Even later on, she's like, you're getting suckered in by him like complimenting. She's like, no, I'm not. And he compliments her more. She's like, oh my god, why? How much of a genius are you, Gigi? And she's just bringing more and more food and putting it on the table. But it's like, yeah, well, we have really quickly, we have Ira, only in the first part of the episode, being like, oh my god, she bringing in another demon to serve her. I know exactly what you're doing, Momo. You're basically gathering up your army for Ragnarok, the final war, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, Ira. And it's like, even Momo's like, is she really still on this? And Ken's like, yeah, it seems that way. And for her, it's like, fine, like, I know what you're doing. She's like, I said that we were going to temporarily join forces until we deal with this alien situation, but the moment that's dealt with, I'm coming after you, Momo. I'm going to go out there and gather my own forces and just leave. She's like, bye-bye, and takes off. I'm like, you're so out there, Ira. Ira continues, Ira's not living in the real world. We're all living in Ira's world. That's her perspective on it. And once again, main character syndrome. But yeah, Ken leaves, and obviously he's kind of a little disheartened, because it's like, right, like, he's also going to be living here with her, and it's like, oh, I guess I'll go home. Once again, we know nothing about Ken's home situation. We haven't tackled that at all. I'm like, is he living with his parents? Is his parents out of the country? The fact is, they're going out of their way not to touch on that at all. I mean, at least once again, with Ira, we know, like, well, her mom's gone, but, I mean, potentially it seems like her dad's still alive. I mean, and we haven't had anything to say of the contrary, so. But yeah, like, Ken's situation, it's like, not unless we end up finding out his parents, like, either are going to become significant later on in the story, like, we just don't get to see them, but they become significant in our own right. Kind of like it's the first example that pops in my head, like Ichigo's dad. You kind of think nothing of Ichigo's dad, and you find out, like, well, there's some significant stuff to Ichigo's dad. I'm referencing Bleach, if you're unaware of what I was referencing. But yeah, So I'm curious to see if his parents are going to be significant. Like, I'm sure they'll play maybe some comedic role, but maybe there'll be something tying them into all of this stuff, or maybe not. Like I said, it just depends. I mean, they haven't touched on anything of like implying like Ken's got any siblings. Once again, other than the occult stuff, we don't really know, and not having any friends, we don't know anything about Ken. So he might actually have siblings we've never heard about, but who knows? He's kind of an enigma in his own right. It's like Momo's the one of the duo that we've learned the most about. But once again, tangents and all that aside, we find out why Gigi's here. I mean, first and foremost, I thought it was kind of sweet, him apologizing. He's like, yeah, I made fun of you when we were younger. He's like, I apologize. Because, like, they haven't seen each other since they were kids, because when they got to middle school, they went to different middle schools. So, like, he hasn't seen her since they were probably kids. So, but I thought what was so interesting is like not only did he apologize for like, yeah, I shouldn't have treated you that way. But once again, it's like I'm a goofy guy, but also like I was a kid and I shouldn't have done that. And especially because he's coming here asking for help because his family moved to like a mountainous area. It was a good place, but he was able to see ghosts and he started recognizing like, yeah, something's off about this house. But the more he talked about it with his parents, the less they believed him. So he just kind of like gaslit himself into be like, right, none of this stuff I'm feeling or seeing is real until whatever it is inside that house showed itself to him. And now it's like the reason why he's staying here is because his parents were hospitalized, and he's here specifically because he wants Seiko or Psycho. I think the proper pronunciation would be Psycho, but I always feel like Seiko sounds better. But either way, she's the one that he came for to get her help because he's had other exorcist people involved. 3 of the 5 that have kind of gotten involved have killed themselves. You're like, Jesus, that's rough. One threw herself off a building, another one hung himself, another one put themselves in front of a train. You're like, wow, that's, once again, let's not shout that this show is goofy and crazy. It's like, yeah, but it's, that's anime for you. It could be goofy and crazy one moment and then like dark as hell, as episode 7 kind of woke everybody up to how dark this show could be. But either way, that's why Gigi's here, because the last person that he was recommended to him was Seiko. So it's like, I need her help. But for her, it's like, well, I can't leave. My powers don't exist outside of the city because I'm borrowing the powers of the gods of this territory. So my powers don't work outside of that. You, on the other hand, Momo, this will be your opportunity. You do this job. I will buy you all the clothes you need, school uniforms, but also someone out of the blue just being able to see ghosts. It's like, I mean, from what we saw, Gigi, it seemed like that was him fairly young when but I mean, maybe he wasn't roughly about the same age, but it's like, him just suddenly being able to see ghosts. Maybe there is a gold ball situation going on, which Gigi thought she would, like, Momo was just making a crass, like, dirty joke or something, but yeah. Also, really quickly, the Momo and the Ken of it all, where he's just like shuffling away, and she's just like, and she has her hand up and she's pointing to it like, come on. And even I'm like, at first, I mean, and maybe this is kind of implied, but I was kind of wondering, I was like, is she trying to tell you to wave goodbye? To an extent, and I thought that's what it was. But he's like, I don't get what you, she's like, last time I said, see you tomorrow, it's your turn. He's like, I didn't know we were taking turns. He's like, see you tomorrow. And he has this grim look on his face, and and he's holding onto his chest because like he doesn't know, but it's like his heart's breaking right now because he's so worried and concerned because he's like, right, them spending time together bothers him more than he realizes it. And you can tell Momo's kind of sad because I think for her it's like, once again, a lot of insecurities that Ken has, Momo does too, because sometimes she worries like, maybe Ken's tired of me, or maybe he doesn't feel the same way I'm feeling about him. Once again, she's figuring it out, but it's also like, I don't know how Ken feels about me. So with everything that's going on between her now, she's just kind of like, and I think it's also the thing of she's kind of sad to see him go because she legitimately, they love spending time with each other and they never kind of want to be apart from each other. Young love, it's sweet and it's beautiful. But anyway, we get to school. Gigi's transferred to the school, and he's just he's a very charismatic, very funny, like outgoing dude. And like he's immediately flirting with all the girls. All the guys in the class are kind of pissed off because, of course, he was going to end up in Momo's same class. It would have been interesting if he ended up transferring to Ken's class, but that's interesting. I find it fascinating because I always think of like the Persona games where it's like not all your protagonists are the same class. Like one of the few exceptions is like would be Persona 4. That's one of the few games where like kind of a majority. It's like more than half your main characters are all in the same class. If I remember, I believe all four of like your four first characters are all like in the same class. Usually it's like maybe one, two or three, because I know in three it's like three characters are in the same class and stuff like that. Once again, it's just one of those interesting things. Like, so Ken and Gigi are the only ones in the same class. Ken's in a different class. Ira's in a different class. So just one of those things I think is kind of interesting, rather than like putting them all in the same classroom. And I think it adds to the drama of, because they are separated from each other, it adds to it like a little bit more, I think. We also, speaking of Ira, we still haven't gotten the aftermath of like her revealing last episode, like, yo, I'm the one that spread that rumor about Momo. Like, I'm the one that said those nasty things about her. So don't hold my situation from episode 9 against her. So we haven't really dealt with like the aftermath of that, but it might be a little bit before we do, or maybe because it is Ira, that did kind of just get brushed on the rug and just people just kind of kept it moving. Just like everything with Ken, like, I mean, we haven't really seen anyone interact with Ken, but that's no different because like everyone ignores him. So nothing's really changed until like people notice like, oh, you're hanging around Momo. That's when people started noticing him a little bit more. But beyond that, now it's like, no, people going back to not noticing him. Which, poor Momo and Ken. Ken's going through it because he's just like dreading, and he's thinking about like, yo, what if Momo and Gigi, like, what if like, right, that's her first crush, what if she still feels the same way about him, what those feelings are mutual, and they start hanging out more, and she feels the need to not hang around me anymore. What if like, like that becomes one less person I can talk to about the occult and stuff like that, where she gets bored of it, she's just more interested in his interest, and that's making him, he's drowning in that sorrow and stuff like that. He's just kind of like, he ultimately ends up going to exercise to get his mind off of things, while Momo's having to rein in Gigi's big mouth and loud personality, because her friends are falling for him, because they're like, oh my god, look at you, he's calling him cute and stuff like that, and they're like, oh, being suckers for it. But he's up there talking about, yo, we live together, we have like this paternal relationship, that's kind of like a paternal cosign to our relationship, and she's choking him out. And I love her friend being like, no, like, you can't, this is kind of a no-no. She's like, there's only like, Momo already has Okura. And I was like, yeah. Good on her friend for that. I thought that was cute. But yeah, Okura Ken is training, and then lo and behold, who comes to him is Momo. And for her, it's like, yeah, let's eat lunch together. And it's like, she's like, have you eaten yet? And it's like, well, your hands are full exercising, so how about I feed you? And he's like, what? Is that really possible? And then Gigi shows up. Like, it doesn't seem like it. Like Gigi has feelings for her. I mean, who knows? I mean, just like Ira didn't, she was joking and being kind of her douchey self when she approached Okurun initially, but now she has feelings for him. They're kind of misplaced, but kind of not. So who knows how Gigi really feels about Momo? We'll see where things kind of go from there. But I don't think it's like it's not the mutual thing that Ken thinks it is. Like, she definitely likes him, and she gets maybe a little buried. Like, the thing is, like, Ken kind of doesn't know Momo as well as Gigi, but also Gigi's coming at this from a perspective of, well, I knew you when we were kids, so he ends up bringing her something that he figures she would like, because he's like, yeah, you used to like this, and she still does, but Ken has come to know Momo as she is now, and who you were then versus who you are now, that kind of applies to everyone. That not only applies to Momo, but Gigi as well. It's like, you're not the same people you were, so everything that's going on, those experiences have shaped Momo, and that's kind of been this thing that her and Ken have bonded over, and it's brought them closer. So it's not as like it's not as mutual as Ken thinks it is. I think she probably still has maybe some things of how she views Gigi, but I don't think she views him in the same way she did. Maybe, his apology, I think, went a long way, but I think at the same time, it's still the thing of the person she likes currently is Ken. Like I said, she's trying to figure it all out. But poor Ken, like, and like I said, I don't think Gigi had any bad intention. He was like, oh yeah, let's go eat. But like Momo going over to him, he's like, right, it's probably better if I just disappear. It's like he's doing that again, where he's just, like I said, it's just, he has a lot of self-esteem issues, and I'm not going to fault him for that. Where it's just like, hey, I'm not about to say I was that guy, I am that guy. But yeah, you just kind of assume the worst. So like, yeah, no one likes me. Like, you find it, like, he could never fathom Momo, like, having feelings for him or feeling the same way he's feeling about it. He can't even fathom that. because he's just like, yeah, she's too awesome, she's too cool. And he's like, yeah, Gigi's so cool and awesome, like they make a much better pair, especially considering like he's your first love and everything. And then we have our moment that, yeah, this would not be Dandadan without it being Dandadan's like crazy weirdness, where we have like a science mannequin running, and it run past Ken, and you know, I love that Momo try to stop it, but Gigi, trying to be a good guy, grabs her because he doesn't know like what Momo is capable and stuff. So he's just like, whoa, like get behind me, Momo, get. And she's like, no, get off me so I can do, because she noticed when the thing flew over, it's like, holy shit, it's got one of Ken's golden balls, maybe. So you're like, but then that begs the question, like, how the hell did you get it? Like, how and why would you have the golden ball? Like, I was like, and why now? Like, unless something or someone placed it up there, but like, would someone just grab the golden ball and then put it there? Like, what's, you know, so many unanswered questions. So Momo grabs onto it. The guy's taking off, taking them along with him. So Ken has to like run. And I thought it was so interesting. Like, if you notice, like when Ken got ready, he was like, all right. And it kind of kept feeling like he was getting stopped. But I don't know if that was like some like knee jerk, like subconscious thing where it's like, because they cut back to like his shoes, and I was like, I don't know if that's like some, I don't know what that was. At first I was like, is that some barrier stopping him from running or something, or what was it? Like he kept getting caught up, and I was like, I'd have to go back to watch it because like that didn't make sense to me. I was like, what is that trying to convey that I completely missed? And like I said, didn't it cut back to his shoes that he had left over there? And I'm like, about to say, I was like, it can't be a subconscious thing about running on his feet, because every time he transforms, he loses his shoes. I mean, that's why even in the intro, like, he's like, before he transforms, he's taking off running, but he takes off his shoes for, you know, so I'm like, I don't know. But either way, Ken catches up to him and ends up being like a run down the street, which is, once again, you got to think about like how wild that looks from the outside, because it's like, all they're going to see is like, obviously they can't see Momo's green hand. Considering Gigi can see ghosts, I don't know if he can see her, like, her psychic power, her power is activated or not. He can definitely see Ken in his transformed state, so I'd assume he can. But, like, to everyone else, it's just going to look like, oh, they're following behind invisibly, and Ken just looks like Ken running up those cars and stuff. So it's like little stuff like that. It's just kind of interesting. And I love Gigi being like, oh, it's a monster. She's like, no, that's Okuru from before. He's like, what? There's no way. And so, like, dashing all over the place, grabbing onto both of them. I mean, he's not going at super speed, but I was about to say he's doing a lot better handling-wise, considering he's holding two people. But it's like, once again, he has been exercising, but also it's just like he's not going full throttle. That's when you had the issue trying to go full throttle and carrying someone. That's why you always needed Momo's help maneuvering back in episode 4. They end up losing, sadly, the... Oh yeah, because I forgot what. Oh yeah, like I think Momo had grabbed onto him, and they were all like pulling with all their might, and then he broke into pieces. I was like, oh, that's sad. And then he immediately started reassembling. I was like, oh, I was not expecting that. And he takes off again. And I love when Ken like de-transforms the guy. I was like, oh my god, he transformed. It solely is the same guy. So they're going to find the guy, and Momo keeps doing this thing where she's hitting her hand. I'm like, what is she doing? And you hear a scream of pain, and she did it again. I was like, oh, is she squeezing the golden ball? That's what I was thinking, because she did kind of a similar, not the same thing, but when Turbo Granny first got into that cat, she like kept her in that room that she was in, even though they were like a couple rooms away. I thought the same thing was happening here, but I thought she was squeezing his balls. It's like, no, apparently quick thinking on Momo's part, she grabbed his heart when he was separated, and all she did was like she was punching it and hitting it, figuring like, right, he'd respond in some way, and all she had to do was follow noise. You know, Momo is pretty crafty, you know, so they end up catching up to him, and she's like, hey, we're not trying to hurt you, we're trying to catch you. It's like, yo, we just want to talk to you, because she's like, I think one of your balls like belongs to one of my friends. And I love Ken just being like, yo, could you say that in a very like different way? But yeah, this guy ends up getting up, and he ends up, because he's looking for his love. And you're like, interesting. That's what this is of, separated lovers. And he goes over and finds her. And it's like, it's so interesting because like we see his mouth move, but hers doesn't. So that's why I was like, are they all hearing both sides of this conversation, or just him? Because that's the thing. I kept thinking like, I said mannequin because I was like, it seemed like it was a mannequin that came to life. But it's like, these are probably... might be aliens. I was about to say, I doubted Yokai, because I brought it up previously. I was like, oh, we're going to go back and forth. Like, well, the last situation, episode 8, 9, and 10, dealt with aliens. So I was like, are we going to deal with a yokai situation? It's like, well, technically we are, because Gigi's situation's a yokai or spirit situation. Whereas but maybe these guys are aliens, and he was just like, right, maybe they just happen to look like mannequins, and he blended in here looking for his love. But because she had talked about like, oh, I'm getting tossed away, so you need to go back before you get tossed away like me. So I think they are just mannequins that became sentient, and I think this will tie into next episode too. Like whether that's like the main crux revolving around Gigi's circumstances, I don't know. But yeah, but the whole point is him talking about her being his love, and he's like, my life was so empty until you stepped into it. It all hits with Ken. And like I said, this is the moment where Ken's finally figuring out, like, hearing this guy, mannequin, alien, whatever it is, or spirit thing, whatever. I mean, maybe it is a spirit thing, and maybe they just possess these mannequin bodies, but whatever the case may be, it's like, I recognize, like, it makes me realize how I feel about Momo, because Momo brightened my world, you know, when she stepped into it. So yeah, it's actually it was like, oh, so this is turning into a really sweet love story in a lot of ways, especially because I think the title of this episode is like First Love. So obviously I figured it had to deal with Gigi and Momo, but obviously there's a little bit more to it. And I think in the case of Ken too, because I mean, we haven't heard anything about any previous crushes, so Momo is probably his first love. So just very, very fascinating developments. I'm excited to see where this takes us next episode. Do correct me. I thought season 1 was only going to be 12 episodes. I thought I saw 12 episodes. That's why I'm catching a snippet, because I try to view as little as possible. But I'm like, with what's coming up, I'm like, is the season going to end on a big cliffhanger? Because I'm like, are we really going to resolve like whatever this mannequin situation is and Gigi's situation in one episode? Because it should be the season finale, not unless there actually is 13 episodes. But I remember looking it up. But once again, I've looked up stuff before, and the episode link numbers always kind of tend to be wrong. So it might have been initially revealed to be 12. Maybe it's actually 13, or maybe I did look it up and it was 13, and I'm just conflating that with other stuff that's only 12 episodes. Whatever the case may be, I'm excited to see what goes down, whether the next episode is the penultimate episode of the season or whether it's the season finale. I'm excited to see where this goes, because the next episode is going to revolve around Gigi's house and like what that's all about. So I'm excited to see what happens next. But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.